Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to all of you gathered here at the grand ninth edition of Valley of Words Shabdavali. It is a pleasure to have you with us as we continue celebrating books, conversations, and the enduring spirit of literature. This session highlights the English translation category of the Wow Book Awards 2025. The winning title, Lavanyadevi, beautifully brings into English the celebrated Hindi original written by the acclaimed author Kusum Khemani. Through this translation, the emotional depth and cultural richness of the narrative reaches a wider audience, reinforcing the vital role of translations in connecting diverse literary worlds. We are deeply honored to have with us the award recipient, Professor Banibrata Mahanta. He is a distinguished professor of English literature at the Banaras Hindu University, a well-known scholar, writer, and translator. His academic work spans Indian writing, nationalist thought, and disability theory, and he has co-edited the noted scholarly volume English Studies in India, Contemporary and Evolving Paradigms. His contribution to the field of literature continues to shape contemporary critical understanding, and we are delighted to welcome him here today. Sir, may we request you to kindly come forward and take your place on the stage. Dr. Nalanda Pandey is a distinguished educationist with over 30 years of leadership in language, literature, and academic development. She has contributed significantly to national curriculum and syllabus review projects and is a committed promoter of multilingualism. She has led and facilitated global citizenship initiatives and intercultural exchange programs across several countries. Her work focuses on nurturing critical thinking, creativity, and cultural sensitivity in young learners. As a speaker and thinker, she continues to engage meaningfully with audiences on contemporary literary, educational, and linguistic concerns. We invite you, ma'am, to also take your seat on the stage.
A very warm welcome to this very special session, and thank you, Ashia from Vellum Girls School, for introducing us. So, as Ashia Mahajan, she just shared with us that we are truly honored to have with us Dr. Banibrata Mahanta, the recipient of Valley of Words 2025 Book Awards in the English translation category, and for translating Lavanyadevi, which was written originally in Hindi by Kusum Khemani. So, I think it's my privilege to host this conversation with you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, the pleasure of your company is mine.
Yeah. So, before beginning this session, I would like to mention that, in this book, Lavanyadevi, the writer, she mentioned visiting quite a few places from Uttarakhand, like Gangotri, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Uttarkashi, Joshimath, and Hemkund Sahib, and Valley of Flowers. So I think this makes our session kind of more beautiful because we are having this conversation in Dehradun, right here in Uttarakhand, which in a way inspired the story. So, Dr. Mahanta, now I would like to request you to give an overview to our audience so that, it will be easier for them to understand.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. And might I just add that the climax of the novel is in Uttarakhand. Yeah. Besides all the places that are there. So basically, yes, I think it's a good idea to start with a very brief summary of what the novel is about. So basically, it focuses on the eponymous character, Lavanyadevi, from her childhood to old age. And through that journey and the letters and diaries that are very much part of the narrative, what the novel does is that it traces the journey of four generations actually, of the family of a Bengali woman in Kolkata, right? So while the diaries and the reminiscences take Lavanyadevi back to the past and become a kind of mode to tell us more about her past history, her previous generations, her interactions with her grandchildren, and the mails that she writes to them. So it starts with letters and ends in emails. That is another, you know, uh, huge transition that we see in the novel. And the plans that she lays out for them over the about what they are supposed to do in their life, that takes us into the future as well. That is the narrative. The story is basically about one woman's negotiation of the various realities around her. So they are familial realities. There, it is set in colonial times and comes up to post-independence India. And then it also charts out a global vision for a future that is built on what we today use as buzzwords, sustainable development, a green approach to life and living. So that's it starts in spirituality and ends with these very concrete realities. Okay, so that is another dimension of the novel. The third thing I'd like to very briefly mention is that the novel is, and we were having a conversation just before the session began, and this came up, so I think it's a good idea to mention it. It's a very idealistic novel in a sense. Okay. And idealistic to the point of, sometimes seeming not possible, slightly unreal. But I guess that that is also a part of the design. All great plans that we lay out, especially in times that are troubled, in times that are times of crisis like the ones we are facing today. Okay. So there I think idealism becomes the kind of goal, the impetus to at least go forward a little bit, even if it's not possible to go the entire distance. So I think very briefly, narratively, thematically, and at the level of ideation, this is what the novel is about. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you so much for giving us such comprehensive overview. So, Dr. Mahanta, a few days back when Nobel Prize for Literature was announced, so I believe it was 8th October.
Right.
So, the Nobel Prize for Literature went to Laszlo, and he's a Hungarian writer. So, he writes only in Hungarian, right? So, what happened? So, he and the readers across the world, they read him through translation. So, I read somewhere, so Mr. Laszlo, he calls his author translators as his co-creators.
Okay.
Okay. So, my question to you is, if we talk about you working on Lavanyadevi, so how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a translator only or as a co-creator also?
Thank you. That is a question that every translator grapples with. And since you mentioned the Nobel Prize, let me also bring in another very interesting anecdote about Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Yeah. So, Marquez is another writer whom we've only read in translation. He is writing in Spanish. And there's this very interesting interview in which he says that sometimes I wonder if it is I who have written these books when I read them in English, because the translator seems to have even transcended the original in some ways. And I think the global popularity, my global popularity, Marquez says, is because more because of the translation than because of what I have written. Of course, I'm not trying to sell myself as a translator. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Marquez was probably in all likelihood being very humble. Okay. But the point that it makes is that the translator brings in a very different sensibility, which then interacts with the author's sensibility to create a third text, another text. So, when I, for example, started translating Lavanyadevi, I read the novel. I found that although it is what many would call a Hindi novel, right, it was not Hindi purely in the sense that it brings
Yeah.
in at least 4 or 5 different Indian languages. Okay. And even as an Indian reader, if I may use a broader classification, there were certain things which I knew for sure that even if I was Indian and not Hindi speaking, I would not understand that. Okay.
True.
Uh, so then, we are already, like, even as we are reading, we are translating, right? We are negotiating between languages, we are negotiating between cultures. And in a country as plurilingual as India, I think that we are also doing that unconsciously. Because wherever we grow up, we are exposed to more than one language. Most of us are at least bilingual, if not trilingual, or knowing more than 3 languages. So that is something that we are always doing to negotiate with, interact with people around us. So I think translation that way is just an extension of this activity that we are doing. Okay.
I agree.
And the opposite scenario which I'll give you is if we are living in times which are very parochial, okay, and we are setting rigid boundaries for ourselves, we are missing out on all these interactions. So I think that in order to just not remain very limited, remain confined, we need to go beyond our own languages and cultures if we have one which can define as our own, because our own are also, if I may just put in a small caveat here, very, a mix of multiple influences, right? So, so that is it in a way. So we are all translating all the time. This is just a translation that brings one text, a printed text in one language into another. Okay, that is one point. Uh, the second point, very quickly, that I'll make is, when I was translating Kusum Khemani and I looked her up, I found that she was a Marwari woman who had traveled to, her family had traveled to Haryana. From there, they had come to Bengal and they had settled there. So there were multiple linguistic and cultural influences on her. So when she creates her palette of characters, there are characters who speak 4 or 5 different languages. And because of her, cultural background, she's able to bring that all in. And that is where I found a resonance with myself because, I am a Bengali who has grown up in Bihar and then in Jharkhand, traveled to Varanasi for my education and then moved to Punjab and stayed also for a very small period of time, stayed in Himachal. And I have picked up multiple influences on the way.
Yeah, we were talking about it.
Yeah, and while I mentioned this in my translator's note also, while I can't say that I belong to any culture, even my own, first language, Bangla, I think I'm more comfortable in other languages than in Bangla. I'm not an other in any of these linguistic scenarios.
Okay.
So then I related to her and I thought that this book is as much mine as it is hers. And that identification kind of set me off on translating this book.
Yeah, that's why, that Hungarian writer Laszlo, he says that, my author translators are very important because they carry my silence, they carry my vision, they carry my cultural understanding to another language.
Right.
So, yeah. So, Dr. Mahanta, now I would like to read an excerpt from your book. So, just to make our audience, familiarize with the beauty of your skills, I should say. So, Yeah. Let me check first. Okay. No, no, I'll manage. Thank you. So, page number 75. So, here it goes. Is this flexibility the middle path that Buddha advocated? Did Mahavir Jain also reconsider his views on truth and non-violence as he was in the process of attaining nirvana? Is this a natural process of change that is characteristic to all contemplative people? Perhaps it is merely the ennui occasioned by advancing age in which the mind is ready to accept everything that happens in the spirit of whatever happens, happens for the best. Or is it more in tune with Kabir and Nanak's Brahma Satyam Jagatam Mithya? The world is illusory, and ultimate reality is the only truth. Are both ideas true? Due to our limited vision, the one part that falls to our share becomes, in our perception, the sole determinant for the absolute truth. So, Dr. Mahanta, so please tell our audience that, what are your experiences and, what your journey has been. And rather, I should say, what your thought process was when you were working on this novel, Lavanyadevi.
Okay, in
So,
terms
your,
of how
in terms of translation.
Okay.
Because I've just read a very beautiful part, so
Right.
I just want to focus on this thing. Yeah.
Okay. As a translator, I think I've already given you the background, which I'll now build on. As a translator, one of my first concerns is that the ideas that are there in the original text or in the source text, let us not get into hierarchies, the ideas in the source text need to be carried forward as much as I, as the translator, can comprehend it. Okay. And I try to think it in the way that the author and then the character would be thinking as they are saying what they are saying or as the situation is being narrated. Uh, I Okay, so two things here. One, because I identify with Kusum Didi at a very personal, experiential level.
So you call
Okay.
her Kusum Didi.
Yes,
Okay.
and that is just something which naturally
Yeah.
comes. She's pushing 90 now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad I could do this before she could see me having completed this. That's another story. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. Uh, so it of course helps if you are friends with the author. Okay. So you kind of are able to discern how she is thinking, or what would be the things in her mind, and because of her multilingual, multicultural background, what kind of ideas she would be comprehending across the experiences that she has. So that is one thing that I try to do. But there is also a level, one thing which I try to replicate, but there is also a level at which I negotiate a few things. And I think all translators do that. It is not just specific to me. Which is that, within that broad scope of what the character does or what the author intends, there are minor things, like the choice of words, the structure, that the way the things are arranged. So for me, I think it is important hierarchically, number one, to replicate things at an ideational level. And if that leads to a few changes here and there in the syntax, in the structure, in the ordering of sentences, not major ones, very minor ones, then I'm okay with that. Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't do a literal translation in the sense that I'll stick to the structure, I'll stick to the order, because sometimes, you know, when you are negotiating between two languages, that becomes
Yeah.
very awkward. It also becomes very stilted
Yeah.
certain times. And
And it
sometimes
may kill the beauty of the
yeah.
feeling and the thoughts behind it.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it also becomes ridiculous. I've tried doing that all. Yeah.
Yeah, it might.
So, yes, so those are the two levels at which I think I negotiate.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Dr. Mahanta, so now I would also call her Kusum Didi.
Yes,
तो
please.
जैसा कुसुम दीदी ने अपने उसमें उपन्यास में हिंदी में लिखा है, तो उन्होंने,
जी।
आप अभी पहले बता रहे थे कि अलग अलग भाषाओं का उसमें प्रयोग हुआ है, कुछ बंगाली शब्दों का भी है,
जी।
मारवाड़ी शब्दों का है, बाकी और संस्कृत के शब्द भी बहुतायत में हमें उसमें देखने को मिल रहे हैं। तो एक चीज़ की उत्सुकता मेरे मन में भी है और शायद हमारे यहाँ दर्शकों के मन में भी होगी कि क्योंकि इस किताब में कई सूत्रों का, कई श्लोकों का, कई कहावतों का, कई दोहों का इस्तेमाल हुआ है, तो ख़ास तौर से जैसे इसमें एक जगह वो लिखती हैं, जो कुसुम दीदी लेखिका हैं इस किताब की, जो हिंदी में जिन्होंने लिखा है, वो जब लिखती हैं और वो कहती हैं कि त्वदीयम वस्तुम गोविंदम तुभ्यमेव समर्पय, या जब वो कहती हैं, जैसे अब हम अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बात कर रहे थे कि ब्रह्म सत्य जगतम मिथ्या, या उन्होंने एक जगह बड़ा खूबसूरती से, मैं तो इसका श्रेय आपको दूंगी कि आपने इसको अनुवाद बड़ी खूबसूरती से किया है। मैं अपने दर्शकों को बताना चाहूँगी कि रीतिकालीन एक कवि हुए हैं, उनका नाम था बिहारी, और बड़ा सुंदर वो लिखते थे। तो उन्होंने एक दोहा लिखा था, वो राजा जयसिंह के दरबार में थे, और राजा जयसिंह जो थे वो एक नव यौवना के प्रेम पाश में बंध गए थे। अपनी जो उनकी राजनीतिक जिम्मेदारियां थी, उत्तरदायित्व थे, उसका निर्वहन सही प्रकार से कर नहीं पा रहे थे। तो उनको समझाए, हिंदी में हम इसे अन्योक्ति अलंकार कहते हैं, इंग्लिश में अलीगरी से कहा जाता है। तो उन्होंने अन्योक्ति अलंकार का प्रयोग करते हुए बड़ा एक सुंदर दोहा उन्होंने कहा था कि नहीं पराग, नहीं मधुर मधु, नहीं विकास इह काल, अली कली ही सौ बंध्यो, अब आगे कौन हवाल। अली यानी भंवरा, कली मतलब अभी तो ये नव यौवना है, तो आगे कौन हवाल की, अभी से ये कली के प्रति इतना आसक्त है, तो पुष्प बनने पर तो पता नहीं इस राजा का क्या हाल होगा। तो मैं शायद इतनी ये साहित्यिक इतने गूढ़ तत्वों को शायद इस समय बात नहीं करती, पर क्योंकि मुद्दा अनुवाद से संबंधित है और कहीं ना कहीं हिंदी से अंग्रेज़ी में अनुवाद से संबंधित है, तो मुझे लगा कि शायद इस बारे में भी थोड़ा चर्चा करना उपयुक्त रहेगा कि जब इस तरह के सूत्रों का, या इस तरह के दोहों का, या इस तरह के श्लोकों का, या इस तरह के अलंकारों का प्रयोग कुसुम दीदी अपनी पुस्तक में हिंदी में करती हैं, तो जब आप इसका अनुवाद कर रहे थे अंग्रेजी में, तो जहाँ ये वाले उद्धरण आ रहे थे, तो क्या आपके अनुवाद की गति बाधित हो रही थी? क्या आपको समय ज़्यादा लग रहा था? ये भी हो सकता है कि आपके जो अनुवाद की गति है वो तेज़ भी हो सकती है, मैं जजमेंटल नहीं बनूंगी। तो कैसा आपको महसूस हुआ जब इस तरह के गूढ़ उद्धरणों का प्रयोग कुसुम दीदी करती हैं, तो आपको उसके ट्रांसलेशन में क्या ये चुनौती थी?
ये बहुत अच्छा सवाल है और इसका मैं पहले एक लाइट हार्टेड जवाब दे देता हूँ। ठीक है, किताब 2013 में छपी और अनुवाद 2024 में छपा, तो समय तो बहुत लग गया क्योंकि किताब मुझे 2014 में मिल गई थी।
अच्छा।
हाँ, और
लेकिन अच्छी चीज़ें समय लगाती हैं।
हाँ, मतलब ये कह के हम अपने आप को समझा सकते हैं, लेकिन फिर भी इतना समय नहीं लगता।
नहीं, जो आपके अनुवाद का स्तर है वो इतना उत्कृष्ट है कि इतना समय लगना हम उसे प्रासंगिक मान सकते हैं।
नहीं,
हाँ
तो
जी, बताएं।
थोड़ा सा एक्चुअली नहीं, मतलब इसमें दो बातें हैं। एक, मैंने दीदी से ये बस एक शर्त रखी थी जब उन्होंने मुझसे अनुवाद करने को कहा था कि मैं टाइम बाउंड वे में इसको नहीं कर पाऊंगा।
अच्छा.
लेकिन उस समय मैंने भी ये नहीं सोचा था कि मैं 10 साल लगा दूंगा, और उन्होंने तो शायद आशा ही छोड़ दी थी कि ये ट्रांसलेट करके देगा मुझे किताब. हाँ, तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती है. आपका जो यूनिवर्स आपका होता है, उसका केओस होता है, पर्सनल प्रोफेशनल, उसमें से निकलते हुए आपको करना है, और आपको वैसे ही करना है जैसा आप करना चाहते हैं.
तो हिंदी साहित्य ने आपको कुछ परेशानी, कुछ ज़्यादा तकलीफ तो नहीं दी?
थोड़ा सा देखिए, मतलब कुछ ये सही बात है, आपने बहुत सही पॉइंट पकड़ा है. एक्चुअली सम ऑफ द रेफरेंसेस आर वेरी एसोटेरिक, ठीक है, और
Yeah.
वो थोड़े से कठिन भी हैं. बहुत सारी चीज़ें तो ऐसी हैं जो आम बोलचाल में एक साधारण आदमी भी कोट करता है. ओके, एक साधारण व्यक्ति जब कोट करता है तो वो चीज़ें उनके समझ में आ जाएंगी, ऐसा सोच के अनुवादक उसको अप्रोच करता है. लेकिन जैसे आपने बिहारी के लाइंस की बात की, या संस्कृत के कुछ स्पेसिफिक श्लोकों की बात की, उनमें हाँ कुछ चीज़ें मेरे लिए भी नहीं थी, तो मुझे उनको देखना पड़ा, समझना पड़ा, उसमें समय लगा. ये बिल्कुल सही बात है, एंड दैट इज़ अ वेरी वैलिड ऑब्जर्वेशन.
ओके, थैंक यू.
और मुझे समझने में तो समय लगा, उसके बाद फिर मुझे ये भी डिसाइड करने में ज़्यादा समय लगा कि मैं इसको अनुवाद किस तरह से करूं कि मेरी जो ऑडियंस है वो इस चीज़ के स्पिरिट को समझते हुए इस बात को भी समझे. तो आई कुड नॉट पैराफ्रेज
Yeah,
simply,
exactly.
or I could not simply gloss it, because then the conversational mode in which those lines have been used, that would have been lost.
Yeah,
Okay.
true.
तो इसमें फिर मैंने एक डिसीजन लिया, और वहीं पे ये डिसीजन मैंने लिया उसी इस तरह के 3-4 जब चीज़ें आ गई कि मेरे पास दो ऑप्शन थे. या तो मैं एक ग्लोबल कॉस्मोपॉलिटन इंग्लिश ईडियम में इसको ट्रांसलेट करता जो बहुत फ्री फ्लोइंग था, और सब कोई उसको पढ़ता और पढ़ने में फ्लो बना रहता. लेकिन ये जो आइडियाज़ हैं और जिस तरह से यूज़ हुए हैं वो कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ होते थोड़े से मेरे हिसाब से. हो सकता है नहीं भी होते.
So I really appreciate your courageous approach. Yeah, actually it is.
Yeah, so then I started using a lot of Indian words, the shlokas themselves, and tried to work in
Yeah.
the glosses into the conversation. So that definitely took a bit of time. Bit of time is an understatement. It took me a lot of time to decide,
Yeah.
because this was also my first full-length translation. Before this, I have
Oh.
translated poems, short stories,
Okay.
short pieces, but this was my first translation of a full-length work, 200 plus pages. So those decisions were important for me, and I was not sure how these would turn out. So when I first sent an excerpt of the book to for a global, funding agency consideration, पेन अमेरिका में मैंने भेजा था. मुझे थोड़ी सी भी उम्मीद नहीं थी कि मैंने इतना ज़्यादा इंडियनिज़म्स, इंडियन सिंटैक्स और इंडियन इंग्लिश वर्ड्स का उपयोग किया था. मुझे लगा था कि शायद ये बस करके देख लेते हैं. But then, I was really happy to note that when the Pen America translation grant came through in 2021, when I was about to finish the award, the one thing that they mentioned in the citation was that, my use of an English which is very different from the usual global English. So I felt slightly vindicated at that point of time.
Actually, your translation and this work is phenomenal. So I think it was worth waiting. So
I think that at the end of it, I'm just happy. I'm not happy with the time that I have taken, but I'm happy that I have been able to do it the way I wanted to do it.
you didn't compromise with the quality and like the level.
Right. मैं मतलब
Kusum Didi must be expecting. No?
उतनी बड़ी बात मैं नहीं करूँगा. मैं बस अच्छे से करना चाहता था.
नहीं, आपने इतने अच्छे से किया है कि वो इट्स वेरी एविडेंट, नो. तो डॉक्टर महंता, अगेन आई वुड लाइक टू रीड एन एक्सर्प्ट. सो फ्रॉम योर बुक, इट्स ऑन पेज नंबर 180. So, where Somen, Lavanyadevi's grandson, so he reads her message sent by an email. And I'm purposely using this
Yeah, yeah.
by an email. So it says, Lavanya Devi writes to her, to some of the kind of, you can say them, her soulmates. So she writes, all of you know that you are each a bit different from others. But today, also be aware that this is not because of the environment, nor because of your education. The only reason for this is that you have risen above your ego and have connected to the universe. A human being who rises above their own self and starts thinking about others connects effortlessly with all other creatures of the universe. This emotional connect leads the person to a still higher level of functioning wherein the heart is full of compassion. You may be aware of the slight distinction between compassion and pity. Pity is induced when we look at the sorry state of a person, whereas compassion is the zenith of sensitivity and empathy and pervades one naturally unholy. Compassion connects us to strangers and to people unrelated to us and makes our hearts beat for them. When our personalities develop on these lines, our compassion extends to encompass their existence and becomes unbounded. So, Dr. Mahanta, now, as we have seen that, you have translated this message of compassion so well and so beautifully. So, please tell our audience that, how reading and writing, of such pieces can help our youngsters, to be more aware, to be more sensitive, and to be more compassionate.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's a very important question to ask. I would like to contextualize it within the times that we live in, the contemporary times. We have time?
We
Yeah.
have, we
Okay.
do have time.
Uh, so, what does literature like this do? And I would like to relate it to the issue of idealism that we just briefly talked about when we began. So, you know, Professor Shekhar Pathak made a beautiful distinction between the short term aims of politics and the long term process of cultural change that happens, and how politics makes an immediate impact. But cultural change is a continuous process. Right. So, I'd like to just take it from there. So, in the times that we live in and the narratives that we consume in these times, we are bound to, be oriented in ways that the dispensation of the times wants us to be oriented towards. Okay. Now, for reading a book like this, or any book on a similar theme, probably gives us, this is set across 4 generations, as I said. So it is telling you more about the process of cultural change and how that process of cultural change is so very syncretic, is so very accommodating, and how it, conveys a very different idea from the one that, narratives of contemporary times are telling us. So, we often talk of, in broader terms, we talk of Hinduism, because this book is a lot about Hinduism as a way of life rather than a religion, which I think is true about all religions. All religions are ways of life, primarily. So, when we talk of a way of life, there are certain ideas, certain ideals, certain values that we espouse, that we stand by, and that comes across more forcefully in an intergenerational study like this than an immediate, bit of narrative that we receive. So, literature like this, in troubled times like the ones that we live in, has this potential to give young minds, and I see a lot of them here. I hope some of it is going across to you also. Sorry, I have been looking only this side and this side. So let me just shift a little bit.
My full focus is on them only.
Okay, yeah, you are seated that way.
So we have balanced it out.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So, when you ask me this question about how it can impact young minds, children, I think that, what you receive from the media, what you see around you, and how loud those narratives are, that can be offset significantly by narratives of compassion like the present one. And whether it comes to you as an original work or as a translation, when you read this, you get an idea of India from pre-independence times to sometime in the future. And then that kind of negotiates with what you receive on an immediate and daily basis. So that is a case for reading all good literature. Okay, whether in the original or in translation, because that kind of perspective helps you, become saner people in a world that is so fraught with divisive, ideologies.
Yeah. So, Dr. Mahanta, we need to be mindful of time also.
Yeah, please.
So I think, yeah. So, before we conclude, so again, I would like to read a short excerpt
Please.
from the foreword written by Dr. Amarjit Singh from your book. No? So,
Yes,
I would just like my students to
I'll just
know this.
interrupt here. I had planned to read a few passages, but then I think
No, please.
no,
You please.
but
By
you've
all
already
means you
done
do.
that for me, and you've chosen some beautiful passages. Thank you.
So he says, Dr. Amarjit Singh, he says, Mahanta has a natural flair for languages and can read, write, and speak Bangla, Hindi, and English. Comfortable in both Bhojpuri and Punjabi also. Banibrata also has a smattering of both Urdu and Sanskrit. So, Dr. Mahanta, we all know that, this is the time of multilingualism and you are skilled in languages. So, do you have any message, for our audience, like how they can develop, a love for multilingualism and how this skill can, help them in future? So,
Okay. So I'd like to answer this question at maybe two levels.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one would be a continuation of what I was just saying. So languages are an entry into cultures, into ways of life, into ways of thinking and believing. And the more you know, the more languages you know, the more cultures you can understand in their entirety. And that is always a good thing. But having said that, I think there's a limit to the number of languages a person can possibly know, maybe 3, 4, 5, which is just, not a tiny bit of the languages that we know exist. Okay. And everyone cannot be P.V. Narasimha Rao, who knew 17 languages, which is
Yeah.
even, a lot, but not good enough to comprehend things. So I
But
think
you are Narasimha Rao upon two, kind of.
Narasimha Rao by 3. Yeah.
No more than Narasimha Rao by 3. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of languages
In
only.
terms of
Yeah.
language. No.
In terms of language count, that is.
Yeah.
So yes. just to get back to the point.
Yeah.
So while knowing languages helps, and we live in a country where knowing languages can come naturally to us if we are open. Okay. So anywhere that we move across the country, I think we are exposed to different languages and to different cultures, and rather than shut ourselves out, कि ये तो ऐसे हैं, they are like this, okay, this language is like that. If we are more open and accommodative to languages, we also gain entries into cultures and understand things.
Exactly.
And at some point of time, if we know a few languages and we know a few others, we want to know a few others to develop a broader understanding of humanity in general. I think translations are a wonderful, wonderful way of doing
Yeah,
that.
actually.
I think it is translation which has, given us this sensibility of a globalized textuality, which we would never have known if we were exposed to just the languages that we were born in or the languages around us. So I think that is what I have to say here.
Okay, so Dr. Mahanta, now if you would like to read something from your book for our audience, so please, by all means.
I couldn't choose better than you have done. Thank you so much.
No, no, if.
No, it's
No,
perfectly
okay.
okay. Yeah.
So I think we would like to take a few questions from the audience. So, any questions? No? Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, I can. No, no, I can. Yeah. No, no, it's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, please.
I must congratulate you. It's a wonderful translation that you have done.
Thank you, ma'am.
And as you have rightly put in, nowadays this is not just a literal translation. Quite on the contrary, you can call it transcreation. Or more than that, it is cultural translation. So when you're translating, you are not translating, the register, for example, not just the linguistic register that you are moving on from one to another,
Right.
but on the other hand, you are also, transmitting that culture. And you have so beautifully done this, and your choice, of the text.
Thank
that
you.
usually you have, the Marwari writers, like you have Prabha Khitan and all. But you have Alka Sarawagi, but they are the people who are Marwadis, and then that is easy for them. But the writer you are choosing, that she's a Marwadi, but then the text that is Bengali. She's writing about Bengali community.
Yeah.
And another thing, as a translator, I would be interested in knowing it, that how much of collaboration, recently you will find, Buka, there is this example of Buka International and the collaboration, between Gitanjali Shri and,
Yes.
Daisy
Rockwell,
Rockwell,
yeah.
and most recently, the Kannada writer,
Yeah.
So did you have that kind of collaboration with the writer?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. Just to add to your observation, I'll just say that apart from thinking of it as a transcreation or a cultural, let us say translation, I think Nalanda ji has put it very beautifully when she says it's a co-creation. Yeah. So yes, it is in a way a co-creation. Yes. I think that it helps a lot if you are friends with the author, because then you can literally pick their brains, which I did quite a lot. Okay. Of course, like I had a fair understanding of her background, so I knew that I could relate mine to hers and think how she how I believed she thought. But then if I was stuck at any point, I would always feel perfectly comfortable giving her a call, talking about things, maybe not the exact lines that I had in mind, but related things. Because when you are asking exact lines, sometimes the answer is, I got a feeling that the answer is not spontaneous. So maybe talk about related things, and from that get an idea of what those lines could mean, and then take a little bit of decision there. Okay, this is how I want to go ahead in this part. So yes, it helps a lot being on talking terms with the author, and it helps even more if you are friends with the author.
Hi, Dr. Mahanta. Congratulations
Yeah.
on this wonderful session and for winning the award.
Thank
Um,
you.
I really, the last answer you gave before this one about your philosophies of translation and the importance of translation, how translation
Right.
can open doors between cultures. It's not just language, you're
Yep.
opening door into a whole new culture.
Right.
I feel that in as more time passes, as the world gets more and more globalized, this is a more important act than ever before. This act of building bridges through translation.
Right.
It's not just language, but it's also literary translation, and literature in
Right.
itself is a form of rebellion. It's a radical act sometimes, especially under circumstances where we see that the language has become so politicized now
Right.
that in different parts of India, they they don't want you to speak certain languages, and translators such as yourselves are doing a great service by building those bridges. So my question to you is, after this experience, you said this took you 10 years to do. What is the next bridge that you're planning to build? What is the next translation journey that you're taking? How will the doors be opened for us next?
We all are eager to know.
Uh, well, that this was done more because of the fact that the author approached me, and even I was not sure whether I'd be able to do it, but because she believed so much, I kind of went ahead, and then I found resonances with a lot of things, that the way I think. The I'm looking to, at the moment, and my collaborator is here with me as well, Atul. So we are looking to translate some non-fiction from the Indian languages into English. I think, if we've all heard Professor Shekhar Pathak in the morning, and how powerful what he said was, that would leave you in no doubt about the impact of bringing non-fiction translation into this realm as well. Uh, Apart from that, what I'm already working on right now is a memoir from Banaras of an acid attack survivor who also happened to be a colleague in Banaras. So she, faced this when she was around 13, and she rebuilt her life. And I think there aren't, except for being Reshma, which everybody talks about, there aren't any more memoirs about acid attack survivors. In fact, there weren't enough laws even about acid attacks before 5 years. So I think that's an important thing to bring in. Of course, acid attacks is a very South Asian phenomenon. There are acid attacks in the UK and a few other countries, but the way it happens in South Asia and Southeast Asia, it doesn't happen anywhere. I think that it needs to be talked about a lot more in South Asia and Southeast Asia, and it also, again, opens up a window into cultures that other people don't know about. So maybe, that is something I'm doing next, apart from the non-fiction that we are planning to kind of shortlist at the moment. Still in process, Karan. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, my question to you is that since you know the author very briefly before actually translating the book, how do you bridge the gap between the source text and your comprehension to it? And how long does it usually take for the entire process to come together?
That is again very subjective. that varies from person to person. Sometimes you are very much at ease with someone the moment you meet and share a couple of thoughts. Sometimes that takes a bit longer. Sometimes, as you interact, you revise your opinions. Okay. uh, Sometimes you are also pleasantly or maybe even unpleasantly shocked by certain things that come later. Those are very human things, so we cannot quantify them. That is the whole point. And that is one part of the answer. About the text, your familiarity with the text, again, is a very relative phenomenon. You sometimes love a text the moment you read it and want it to travel. Okay. And sometimes a text grows on you and then you gradually realize, like humans, like with humans, you realize that what it means, and then you decide to invest it with what meaning it carries for you. So again, very, very personal and subjective. Okay. And the answer is as imperfect as the process itself. Okay. So the process is just something you gradually excavate and find out. My answer is trying to do exactly that. Thank you.
One question from student
Yes,
side. Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon. So, the book that you have translated involves a lot of different cultures. It is something that is involving many cultures. So, do you believe that while translating it into a more universal language like English, were you ever afraid of upsetting conformist ideas that believe that certain cultures should remain as part of those people who belong to those cultures? So, because the book mentions a lot of Marwari things, maybe a lot of Sanskrit texts, and a lot of that, people who believe that certain cultures and religions should not be made universal, should be preserved within certain places. Do you believe you might have upsetted that or satisfied that idea?
Okay. That's a very, very interesting question. Thank you so much. Uh, and my first impulse is to tell you that read the book and find out.
Yeah. I'm sure they will. They will. Yeah.
Yeah, please sit. I'll just think through the answer as I talk to you. Actually, that was very much on my mind. Okay. And I think I spoke briefly about it when we were talking. I'll just elaborate on that. So, I resisted, like when somebody is translating into English. Okay. I think one of the considerations definitely is the audience, the readership, right? What kind of readership do I envisage? And how reader friendly is my text going to be? If that was my only consideration, I would risk simplifying or, let us say explaining or, doing away with certain nuances which are very culture specific. But I have, I think I have tried and tried successfully to resist that. So if I want to convey the lilt of the Bangla language or the way Haryanvi is spoken, it is there in the text. So a certain, this is not a value judgment, but just the texture of the language, the certain roughness of the Haryanvi language. If I just translate it into English with a syntactically correct approach, I'm giving the meaning, but I'm losing out on the tonality. Okay. So then what I've tried to do is deliberately use syntax that might not be, let us say, perfectly acceptable English that way, but which retains a little bit of the tonality and therefore the flavor of the original. With, that is one thing. The second thing that I've done is, when I'm dealing with proverbs, when I'm dealing with, scriptural quotations, I've tried to transliterate them to the extent possible and then explain them.
Yeah.
Sometimes within the text, sometimes in glosses, which are there at the end. Okay. Having said that, there are still things which I have missed out on. And one example which I have mentioned, and I'll very briefly talk to you about, is something like, there is a dialogue in Bangla in the text which says, Amar haadgulo ghishe jacche. That is, my bones are being worn out. Okay. Hard as in bone, ghis jana you understand, right? Now, pure Bangla would say, haadgulo ghoshe jacche. Okay, not ghishe jacche. Now, how does ghishe come about? Because she is a Hindi speaker, she said she knows that it is ghis ja rahe hain. Okay. And she kind of brings it together with the Bangla ghoshe jacche. So, so ghishe, so it has the middle of the Hindi word and the end of the Bangla word. That I could not translate. Okay, so there are words like that. So there are places where I have to give up as a translator at the level of language, but I've tried wherever possible to retain that. I hope that answers your query. Yeah, thank you.
So, Dr. Mahanta, though we would like to listen to you more and more, but I think it's time to conclude. So, we are honored to have you with us, and especially for this conversation. And I would like to thank students from Himjyoti School, from Vellum Girls School also, and a big thank you to Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, Festival Director, and the entire Value of Words team. So, thank you so much, and all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing in such nice questions and for helping the book travel to a new set of audience, for which I'm also grateful to Dr. Sanjeev Chopra and the WOW team. And I think that the spirit in which you took the book, the spirit of compassion, the spirit of cultural, amalgamation, I hope that many of you will read this book, and particularly students, and you will carry forward this spirit of cultural amalgamation that is so central to our ethos as Indians. Thank you.